Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let us continue talking about phrases. Now, we've already talked about prepositional phrases and appositive phrases, and we have three phrases left. Altogether, these three phrases are known as verbal phrases. So let's talk about verbal phrases first, and then we'll be more specific. Verbal phrases start in your textbook on page 71 and go for a bunch of pages, but if you want verbal phrases definitions, they're on page 71. A verbal is a word that looks like a verb, but it acts like something else. So the thing that all verbals have in common, they look like verbs, but they act like something else. We have three types of verbals and verbal phrases. We have participles or participle phrases, gerunds, and infinitives. Let's start with participles. Participle phrases also start in your textbook on page 71. Here we go. A participle phrase looks like a verb, but it acts like an adjective. Remember what adjectives do. Adjectives describe nouns and pronouns. A participle phrase starts with a participle, and sometimes it is only the participle, but it may include an object or a modifier. Participles come in two forms. We have present participles, which often, but not always, end in ing, and we have past participles, which often, but not always, end in ed. Now, there is a tip with participles, and the tip is that you can part with participles. You can part with participles. This just means that you can remove them from the sentence, and the sentence should still make sense. Now, that's not super important right now, but when we get to the end and you have to try to identify all the different phrases when they're all mixed together, this tip will become mighty useful. Let us look at some examples. The first sentence reads like this. Running like the wind, Twiggy caught a chipmunk. We are looking for words that look like verbs. In this case, running is the participle. Now, the entire phrase is running like the wind. So this is our participle phrase. And we know that participles act like adjectives. So we ask ourselves, what is running like the wind? And the answer is Twiggy, which makes sense because Twiggy is a noun, so running like the wind is acting like an adjective. Now, it is important to keep in mind that participles usually go next to or really near the thing that they are describing. You will notice here in the second sentence that it's almost the exact same sentence, except I took the participle from the front and I moved it to the back, so it changes the meaning a little bit. Here's how it reads. Twiggy caught a chipmunk running like the wind. Okay, so just like before, running like the wind is our participle, but this time it is not describing Twiggy because it is actually closer to the word chipmunk. So now the chipmunk is the item, the animal, that was running like the wind. Make sense? It's important to keep in mind when you're writing them or when you're identifying them that participles need to go very close to the word that they are modifying, otherwise things get confusing. Let's look at some more examples. The first sentence reads like this. Filmed more than 30 years ago, Star Wars is still amazing. Okay, filmed looks like a verb. The entire phrase is filmed more than 30, oh dear, sad face. Oh, that was awful. Okay, let me try this again. Filmed more than 30 years ago, Star Wars is still amazing. Okay, so just like before, here is verb. This entire phrase is describing what? What was filmed more than 30 years ago? The answer is Star Wars. Now, we can double check. We can use our tip. Remember, we said our tip was you can part with participles. So I ask myself, can I remove what I have underlined? If I take this out, if I part with it, do I still have a complete sentence? And the answer is yes. I can still say Star Wars is still amazing, and that is a complete sentence. That means we have successfully identified, in this instance, a participle. Now, it is also important to note, we skipped over this last time, in this case, filmed is a past tense. It ends in ed, so this is actually, this entire thing here, is actually a past participle phrase. On to our second example, which reads like this. I found a picture of Darth Vader sitting on a camel. Let's make this a little more confusing than it needs to be. If I'm looking at this sentence, I see two words that look like verbs. Found and sitting. Now let's say, I don't know which one it is, but I think I can identify something that might be a phrase. So I say to myself, okay, found a picture. Maybe that is a participle phrase. On the other hand, we've got sitting on a camel. Perhaps this is our participle phrase. Here's how we can double check. Remember, you can part with participles. So let's try this. What happens if I take out this? Am I left with a complete sentence? I of Darth Vader sitting on a camel. No, that doesn't make sense because this is not a participle. It is, in fact, the actual verb of the sentence. So we come back over here. Let's underline this one again. Sitting on a camel. So we ask ourselves, can we part with it? Can I take this out? Can I say, I found a picture of Darth Vader? And the answer is yes. Yes, I can, because this, sitting on a camel, is, in fact, a participle phrase. Here's our participle. It ends in ing. That makes this a present participle. The whole phrase is sitting on a camel. Okay, last sentence. The broken lightsaber made a terrible squeaking noise. Okay, once again, we are looking for words that look like verbs. Most people are going to go right down here to the word made. And they're going to be all like, oh, maybe it's made a terrible squeaking noise? Well, let's check it. Can we part with it? The broken lightsaber. No, see, that does not make sense because made a terrible squeaking noise is actually the verb of the sentence. So we need another word in here. We need another word in here that looks like a verb. And the answer is broken. Broken is a verb. I can break something. Now, it gets a little tricky here because we notice that broken neither ends in ing or ed. But if I were to ask you, is broken past tense or present tense, you would say, well, it is past tense even though it ends in en. You will also notice broken describes lightsaber. See, that makes it. Lightsaber is a noun. Broken is a participle all by itself. There are no other words in this particular participle phrase. You could just call it a participle. There it is. Some of you are starting to panic because you're not really sure how to figure out where the participle stops. You can figure out where it begins. I mean, here we've got this sentence. Carrying her broken flip-flops in her hands, Liz accidentally stomped on a grasshopper. Poor grasshopper. Okay, we know from our notes before that participles usually start with the participle, and here is our ing word. Carrying looks like a verb. This is, in fact, our participle. But we said that participle phrases can include up to three things. First, we've got our participle. Then we need to look at something that we call the object of the verbal, or the thing that completes the thought. So we ask ourselves, what is the thing being carried? The answer is her flip-flops. So actually, the flip-flops are what we call the object of the verbal. We also know from our notes that participle phrases include a participle, perhaps an object, and we also need to look for modifiers. So let's look for modifiers. Her. What does her describe? Her describes or modifies the word flip-flops. So we need to include the word her. Broken is a modifier. It describes the word flip-flops. Broken, we saw before, is actually a participle, but that's okay because participles act like adjectives, and adjectives are modifiers. So we need to include the word broken. In her hands is a prepositional phrase, but we learned before that prepositional phrases act like adjectives and adverbs, and both adjectives and adverbs are modifiers. In this case, in her hands is telling us where she is carrying stuff, so it's an adverb phrase. So we can see that everything here is either an object or a modifier. So we need, in our entire participle phrase, the entire thing. See how that works? I hope so. All right, there you go. Let me know if you've got some questions. Ta-da!